There's this piece of Google technology that you use every single day, and you probably don't even think about it. It's the secret sauce behind how Google can practically read your mind. It was a massive turning point that completely changed how we all find information online. So today, we're diving into Google's secret weapon, the Hummingbird update. Seriously, think about it for a second. You can type a whole question into Google, you can misspell words, you can be super vague, and somehow it just gets you. It's kind of magic, right? But it wasn't always like this. So how did Google learn to do that? Well, that's the story we're going to unpack today. To really get what a huge deal this was, we got to rewind the clock to before 2013. Back then, using a search engine was, well, it was kind of clunky. It felt robotic. You couldn't just ask a question. You had to learn how to speak computer just to get a decent answer. And this right here shows you the huge shift perfectly. Before Hummingbird, we had to chop our thoughts down into these little keyword nuggets, like weather, New York City. But after, we could finally start using natural language, asking things the way we'd actually say them. It was this incredible moment where the machine finally started to understand us, instead of forcing us to understand it. Yep, that's exactly it. The old search engines were basically just playing a game of keyword matching. They'd look at the words you typed, and then they'd find pages that had those same words on them. The problem? They were just matching text. They had no idea what you actually wanted. They were totally missing your intent. So the big question is, how did Google fix this? Well, it wasn't some tiny patch or a quick fix. Nope, they basically threw out the entire old engine and built a brand new one from scratch. And this is what they came up with. Hummingbird. The name itself is a hint, right? Precise and fast. This wasn't just another update. It was a fundamental rewrite of the whole system. Imagine trying to replace a car's engine while it's still flying down the freeway. That's kind of what they did. And the goal, while it sounds simple, was absolutely revolutionary. Stop matching words and start understanding conversations. And to really put into perspective how big of a deal this was, just look at the updates that came before it. You had Panda and Penguin, which were basically just filters bolted onto the old engine to fight spam. But Hummingbird wasn't a filter. It was a whole new foundation. It changed the very DNA of how Google search worked. All right, so let's get into the secret sauce. How does this new engine actually work? What gives Google this almost spooky ability to understand what we're thinking? It really all comes down to two key innovations. And here they are. These are the two pillars holding everything up, semantic search and the knowledge graph. You can think of one as the brain that does the thinking, and the other as the massive library that the brain uses for information. Let's break them down. First up, the brain, semantic search. This is all about understanding language the way a person does. It's not just about what words mean in a dictionary, it's about how those words work together in a sentence, the context, the nuance, to figure out what someone is really trying to find. Let me give you a super simple example. Let's say you search for best place for Chinese. Now, an old keyword-based engine could easily get confused. Place could be anything. Chinese could refer to a person or a language. It might show you a list of cities in China. But that's obviously not what you meant. So here's how the new semantic brain thinks about it. It uses context. It figures place in this context probably means restaurant, and Chinese probably refers to a type of food, a cuisine. Then it puts those two ideas together and understands your true intent. You're hungry, and you want recommendations for a Chinese restaurant near you. It's a simple example, but it shows a huge leap forward in understanding. Now for that second ingredient, the library. A full year before Hummingbird even went live, Google quietly launched its foundation. This was no accident. It was the essential groundwork that made everything else possible. And that was the knowledge graph. Think of it like Google's gigantic encyclopedia of, well, everything. But here's the cool part. It doesn't just store facts. It stores the connections between facts. It knows that the Eiffel Tower is a thing, that it's located in Paris, and that Paris is the capital of France. This huge web of connected information is what gives the semantic search brain all the raw material it needs to understand the real world. Okay, so we get what Hummingbird is and how it works. But what does this all mean for you? For anyone out there creating content or building a website? How do you actually succeed in this new world of semantic search? Well, the playbook is actually pretty simple. Write for humans, not for robots. Use natural conversational language.
Instead of obsessing over single keywords, focus on answering the real question that a user has. That means creating deep, helpful content that covers a topic thoroughly. And you can even use tools like schema markup, which is basically a way to spoon-feed Google context about your content, making its job even easier.
And what that means is that all those old school SEO tricks, yeah, they basically became useless overnight. Things like keyword stuffing, where you just jam a word in over and over again, that was dead. Trying to game the system was now a losing battle. In this post-Hummingbird world, thin, low-quality content just doesn't fly. The entire game shifted to quality and real human value. And I absolutely love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. For anyone who was already creating great, helpful stuff for people, Hummingbird wasn't some scary update you had to recover from. It was a massive opportunity. It leveled the playing field and started rewarding the people who were genuinely trying to help users. So at the end of the day, the biggest lesson from the Hummingbird update is this simple question. Stop focusing so much on the exact keywords people are typing and start obsessing over the questions they are really asking. If you can answer that, you've totally understood the legacy of the update that taught a machine how to finally understand us. Thanks for tuning in.